20 years ago, in northern Israel, 2 helicopters crashed together near a place called Shar Yashuv. And 73 young Israeli soldiers perished. And my friend in Toronto, Dov Harris, was looking at the list of young soldiers, all 18, 19, 20, 21, and he came across a name that was quite unique. The name was Mishaker. And he remembered he'd gone to Hebrew University with a man by the same name who came from South Africa like he did. He didn't think it was him because he was in his 40s, but he wondered if it was in any relation. So he called up Jonathan Mishaker in Israel, and he asked him, was this any relation? And he confirmed, yes, it was his 19-year-old son, Gilad. And after a pause, he said, but you know what? My son's death wasn't in vain. My son Gilad was one of 73 soldiers who perished, but there are actually supposed to be 74 soldiers. But what happened, by some mistake, somebody wrote down my son's name twice. So when the 74th soldier showed up, the commander, looking at the manifest, thought that there were 74 soldiers already. And he told the soldier to go home. And the soldier said, but I'm supposed to be on the helicopter. And the commander said, I'm sorry, there's no room. And so that soldier went home, and his life was saved. And Jonathan concluded by saying, you see, my son's death wasn't in vain. And now the young Israeli soldier's life was saved because of my son. That story reminds me of Holocaust survivor and writer Viktor Frankl's thoughts on suffering. Frankl suggests to us there's all sorts of goals we have in life: money, fame, power, pleasure. But the real goal, the real essence of our life is a search for meaning. And Frankl, a survivor of Auschwitz, said, that is how I survived. Even through the suffering I was having, despite the suffering and through the suffering, I was able to find meaning in my life. The attempt to find some seed of consolation, even in the grimmest moments, reflects the truism that pain is somewhat made more bearable when we're able to find a single strand of meaning, even as we endure our suffering. Nowhere is this more evident than in the example of what the Holocaust survivors throughout the world did in the aftermath of the Shoah. Considering what they had undergone, who could have faulted them for giving to despair and cynicism? Yet they went on to rebuild their lives, start new families, and become active contributors to their communities and society as a whole. In essence, they reflected what Elie Wiesel once said. He said, after the Shoah, there's a new definition to a Jew, which is this: to be a Jew after the Holocaust is to have every reason to give up your faith in God, every reason to give up your faith in humanity, every reason to give up your Judaism, and yet not to still go on believing in Judaism, still go on believing in humanity, still go on struggling and hopefully believing in God. Despite their disappointment in the world, most survivors did not become embittered. While many did and still do wrestle with their faith, the vast majority of survivors did not give up faith in life itself and the capacity for humanity to renew itself and to learn from their past mistakes. Turn again to Viktor Frankl. They imbue their lives with meaning, even as events of the Holocaust remain at the forefront of their consciousness. They did not give up hope. One last story from the March of the Living. Again, it was almost 30 years ago. We had spent an incredibly difficult day in Majdanek, one of the most difficult days I've ever experienced. And at the end of our visit, one of the chaperones said, let's daven mincha. Let's pray the afternoon prayer. And that's what we did. Opposite the barbed wire, in one of the most cursed places in the world, we prayed the afternoon prayer. And we got on the bus. Our chaperone said something nobody will ever forget. He said, to be Jewish means to never give up hope. So I want to conclude with words of gratitude by first thanking Israel's brave soldiers, the thousands of men and women who defend Israel every day under the most challenging of circumstances. And I want to thank the survivors for overcoming adversity, for coming on the march each and every year, for sharing their stories in the very places their tragic histories unfolded, and for never giving up hope, despite having every reason to do so. And finally, I want to thank you, the majority here, our beloved students, who are gathered here this evening, who have come on the march, to thank you for listening to the survivors' stories, for pledging to be the bearers of their memories, and for your love and support for the people in the state of Israel. For you too, dear young students, fill our hearts with hope. Chag Sameach. Thank you.